We have a big exclusive for you. You've not seen it anywhere else so far. NewsX has the full story of Pakistan's three-part plot that led to the Jadhav execution order by the Pakistan Army. We've already told you how China triggered the conspiracy as retaliation for India's insistence on allowing the Dalai Lama to visit its integral territory of Arunachal Pradesh. Now we understand that Pakistan's ISI too was keen to oblige, given that it was still smarting from the arrest of its own man from the Pakistan High Commission's office in October last year here in Delhi. The arrest of Mahmood Akhtar had unmasked the ISI as an espionage agency to the rest of the world, and the ISI was eager to hit back by framing Kulbhushan Jadhav as a research and analysis wing spy, something which he clearly wasn't. And my colleague Saurav Sanyal now joins us with more on that story. Saurav, this is really a deeper conspiracy than we had initially thought. Take us through the details that you have.
Well, that's right, Neha, and it's getting clearer by the minute now that how Pakistan really was essentially plotting revenge, because Pakistan was caught red-handed. Pakistan's spy was nabbed by the Indian officials over here, and when gory details started coming out as to how and what was the modus operandi, how they were planning to initiate, unrest in the Indian subcontinent, that is where Pakistan was caught on the back foot, and this was Pakistan's best bet. So in a bid to do a tit for tat, in a bid to outsmart India, what Pakistan did was essentially they went ahead and they framed Kulbhushan Jadhav. So Kulbhushan Jadhav, now we know, underwent a farcical trial, if we may even call that a trial, Neha, in Pakistan, and that was conducted by a military court, and Kulbhushan Jadhav has been framed, as we have been reporting relentlessly, while the clamor is growing across the country demanding justice for Kulbhushan Jadhav. The factor is that Pakistan maintains that he was an Indian spy, he was an R&AW agent, a charge which has been completely negated by India. Now, as the facts emerge in the case, we clearly know that Kulbhushan Jadhav was essentially a businessman who was working, who was there in Iran at that point in time, from where he was picked up. And now there are multiple theories also doing the rounds as to how he was picked up by the Pakistani authorities, but the Pakistani agencies essentially laid their hands on Kulbhushan Jadhav, and then this huge frame-up game really began. India sought consular access to Kulbhushan Jadhav not once, not twice, Neha, but 13 times. But 13 times India's request fell into deaf ears, and Pakistan refused to give any consular access when it came to Kulbhushan Jadhav. And it's just not Kulbhushan Jadhav. We know that how in India people have been vociferously talking about demanding justice for all others who have been languishing in Pakistan jails. In fact, before Kulbhushan Jadhav, there were 5 others who were completely let down by the Pakistani judicial system. 5 others, including Sarabjit Singh, who died waiting for justice in Pakistan, and that too under very mysterious circumstances. So is this then a big game plan that Pakistan had hatched? Is this Pakistan's way of hating out at India, hitting below the belt as it were, trying to frame an innocent man, projecting him as a terrorist, as someone who's detrimental towards the interests of Pakistani society? That is a big question. So this entire narrative that Pakistan has really woven around Kulbhushan Jadhav, that does not hold any water, because India has been crying out hoarse. India has sent out a very strong message there to Pakistan. We have heard very senior voices from within the government speaking out on this issue. But the fact of the matter is, as NewsX investigation has now revealed, that Pakistan's game plan was to outsmart India in a way that Pakistan was caught on the back foot after the arrest of Mahmood Akhtar, the Pakistani spy who was here within who was working with the Pakistan High Commission. We know that what really happened after that, and subsequently this was Pakistan's way of getting back at India.
Right. It seems like this was Pakistan's revenge in many ways, and also acting as a proxy for China, a tit for tat really over India's snub to China on the issue of Dalai Lama's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. But the third part of this sinister conspiracy, sort of, which was probably an attempt on part of Pakistan to force India into talks at this stage. Talks we know have been in the deep freeze for a while now, because despite repeated peace gestures by India. Pakistan continued to betray India, stab it in the back with one terror attack after another in Jammu and Kashmir. And then, of course, the Indian government taking the very tough stand, saying that talks and terror can't go hand in hand. We saw how the surgical strikes were carried out by the Indian Army across the line of control in response to the Uri terror attack. So clearly talks were in the deep freeze. But the point is, does Pakistan realistically expect India to fall for this ploy?
Well, India for sure has seen through Pakistan's ploy. Pakistan's game now stands completely exposed when it comes to Kulbhushan Jadhav and the way that he is being framed. An innocent man who's now being sent to the gallows, an innocent man who has been denied the chance of a fair trial, an innocent man who's been convicted by a kangaroo court, by a country which essentially was playing a game of one-upmanship, since one of their own, who was working in the visa section of Pakistan High Commission here in Delhi, he was caught, and Pakistan literally had egg on its face. Pakistan couldn't explain to the world community as to, regarding this arrest, whatever noises were made. And yes, as you pointed out, Neha, rightly, that, China too, we know that had been upping the ante against India when it came to Dalai Lama and Dalai Lama's recent visit to Arunachal Pradesh, particularly Tawang. So India there as well sent out a very, very strong message, a stern message that saying that China had no business to meddle with India's internal affairs, and that Dalai Lama was the state guest and Dalai Lamas would continue with his program as scheduled. So that was a very strong message that was sent out to China, but China didn't quite take that lying low. The Chinese also issued a kind of a veiled threat to India, which doesn't hold any water. Now we see on one hand, while India has been advocating for peace, India has always been at the forefront when it comes to demanding peace, the establishment of peace, and so that the unrest can be put to rest. But multiple attempts by India have been thwarted time and again by Pakistan, and this is yet another example of daring Pakistan provocation.
Right. Saurabh, stay with us. We'll come back to you in just a moment. We'll also go across to Ashish Singh, who's tracking various aspects of that story. Before that, let's get a reaction from General G.D. Bakshi, who joins us on the phone line. General Bakshi, you may have heard my colleagues Saurabh and Ashish and Geeta report this story. It looks like it's a deeper conspiracy by Pakistan than we had earlier thought. This could be a case of Pakistan acting as a proxy for China and a tit for tat against India's snub to China on the issue of the Dalai Lama's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. This could even be Pakistan's revenge against India after one of their own men, an ISI man, was caught from the Pakistani High Commission last year. And this is perhaps a ploy to force India to come to the negotiating table. So how would you respond to those revelations that NewsX has broken?
There is no doubt that the China-Pakistan combined is now proudly hostile to us. They will do everything in their power to do us down. The pity is, our response is to suck up to them, to start sending parliamentary delegations, to start these circuit of track 2 dialogues where you must pop the champagne. There are obviously some compulsive champagne drinkers who can't stay without free champagne. I mean, I fail to understand. Kulbhushan Jadhav was a die-hard Navy officer. After retirement, he had joined the Merchant Navy and was carrying out bona fide trade in Chabahar. He is abducted from there, kidnapped and abducted, taken to Balochistan, tortured till he is crazy, to confess to crimes he never did, then paraded before a kangaroo court, a military, so-called military court, right in camera.
So there is no doubt.
To death. This is a judicial murder.
Right. General Bakshi, if I could come in here, you're absolutely right. If Pakistan does go ahead with this, this will be nothing short of judicial murder. India is already saying we will consider it a premeditated murder. This was a kangaroo court. There was absolutely no transparency in this process, and the trial was a complete farce. But the question, sir, now is that India has been provoked yet again by Pakistan. What are the options available to India at this stage? How do you think we can realistically respond?
You see, we encourage Pakistan to provoke us and poke us in the eye because we are so keen to get back to peace talks. Because our parliament shies away from passing a bill to declare Pakistan a state sponsor of terrorism. If these are the signals of weakness that you said, you will invite further attacks. If time has come that we had said that the surgical strikes will be the new norm, why then have we called such a dead halt after the first surgical strike, the first fire assault? I think if that is the language Pakistan understands, we should give it more of the same. Because we are all saying it is the Pakistan Army which is in charge. The civilian dispensation is just a mask, a mukhota. So if they do not understand the language of peace, they do not understand civil conduct, then we have to talk to them in a language that they understand. We have to raise costs for Pakistan. We have to, escalate costs for Pakistan so that it realizes that it is not going to be the proxy war will not be a low-cost enterprise. It cannot go on doing that forever and ever and threaten us with nuclear damnation. To hell with their we have also got.
All right.
And I'm very sure they will not use them. So the point that I'm trying to make is, why should we show this callousness towards our own Indian citizens?
Right.
Yes, Kulbhushan Jadhav was not in the Zulu category. He did not have hordes of NSG Black Cat commandos protecting him. Does that mean that his life costs nothing?
Absolutely.
He can be tortured, he can be killed, he can be, paraded before a
Absolutely. There needs to be much greater importance and value attached to every Indian life. That's the larger point you're making, Major General Bakshi. Thanks very much for sharing your views with us. You're right in saying that Pakistan doesn't seem to understand the language of peace. But the question really is, how exactly does India go about imposing a cost on Pakistan? All right, Ashish Singh is also tracking this story for us and now joins us with the very latest. Ashish, what we are reporting here on news... all right, Ashish is not there at the moment, I'm told. We try and go back to him in just a moment. But really, this is the big story that NewsX has broken in the last hour or so. We're telling you about the larger nefarious design that, in fact, is at the heart of this Pakistani conspiracy, following which they decided to award the death sentence to former Indian naval officer Kulbhushan Jadhav. Reliable sources telling NewsX that this is an instance of Pakistan acting as a proxy for China. Remember, India recently snubbed China on the issue of the Dalai Lama's visit to Arunachal Pradesh. China reacted very, very strongly, saying there will be consequences. And it looks like China decided to use its friend and ally, Pakistan, trusted aid and ally Pakistan, to as a pawn yet again to settle scores with India. And of course, this could also be a case of Pakistan exacting revenge against India after an ISI man was arrested by India last year as part of a large espionage racket. All right, let's play out some reactions for you, and after that, we will get you more on this story.
I would like to inform the House that Sri Jadhav was doing business in Iran and was kidnapped and taken to Pakistan. The exact circumstances are unclear and can only be ascertained if we have consular access to him. Accordingly, from the time his abduction was known, our High Commission in Islamabad has continuously pressed Pakistani authorities for such access. Although this is provided for by international law and is deemed a norm in international relations, the government of Pakistan did not permit it. That itself should tell us much about the strength of the case against Sri Jadhav. Honorable members would also recall that a senior Pakistani leader has himself expressed doubts about the adequacy of evidence in this case. Honorable Deputy Chairman, sir, earlier this year, the Pakistan government sought our assistance to obtain evidence and other materials for the investigation process. In doing so, they leveled ridiculous charges